still paying bond to stay in that house. You are not staying for free, because the day that you lose the job, the bank, before the end of the year, the bank will repossess that house and you are kicked with your family there outside. So people will say, but it's your house, Mos. Yes, but I failed to pay. You see, you own your house earlier, because if you buy your house at 20, at 40, you are now a landlord, or you are now a property owner.
So I just want to now talk about the costs. So what are the costs that someone incurs or someone has to put aside or know about when they buy a house? Like, what are the different, like, say I'm buying a house. So for me, I'm young. I got like, oh, I found this flat that I like. The only thing I'm thinking of is, will the bank approve me? So what other things must a person also know that they have to have money for this, and this?
All right. Before I answer that, I think I have a preamble answer to that. Like, when buying a property, there are two things that you need to know. What are you buying the house for?
Okay.
Are you buying it for your own dwelling, for you to be there to say, this is my house that I'll be staying? Or are you buying for investment? Right? So this will become interesting now to you before I go to that to answer completely on that. Do you know that the house that you buy and you stay, the house that you buy on bond and you stay in that house is not an asset, it's a liability.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
You can't buy a house on bond and stay in that house.
Okay.
The house that you can buy on bond.
Explain that to me a bit more.
Okay. You buy a house on bond, you stay in the house. You are paying the bond, right? How are you different with someone who is renting?
Because in 20 years' time, it's mine.
In 20 years' time, right? Yes. Even the one that you buy and put a tenant, in 20 years is still yours. And in this case, you bought a house, the bond is 10,000. You put a tenant there who is paying maybe 10,000 the rent and caters for the utilities there. Maybe if it's in a company, you are paying the levies, or maybe the rent covers with the levies as well, right? Then maybe you are staying 8,000 or 5,000 rented apartment, right? So my advice is, or my explanation is, you are staying in the house that you are renting, and you are paying the bond, and you are paying 10,000. But before you bought that house, you were renting a flat of 6,000. Now you bought the house, you are moving to that house that you are now paying the bond for 10,000, plus levies if it's in a complex, plus utilities, those rents and taxes, right? Now I buy my own house, I'll pay the bond for 10,000. I put a tenant who pays 12,000 there. I continue staying where I am here. I'm paying 6,000.
Okay.
Who is financially intelligent?
It's the person who has a tenant at the property.
Yes. Then your first house that you pay up, maybe you buy on cash, or maybe you won a lotto, then you clear the loan with the bank, or whatever. Something happens to you, then you get money, a lump sum, then you clear that. Or maybe the first house that you pay up in full. The house that you pay up in full, that's the house that you must now stay in. Move to that house that you have paid in full. Before you pay that house in full, there's no point for you to go to stay to that house. put a tenant there, or maybe whatever business that it covers for itself, then once it pays itself up, then you stay in the house. Sure. Those other houses that you are buying, or the bank keeps on approving you because you're a good payer, you've got other properties that you took through them, they keep on approving you, your applications. Then you buy, you put, you buy, you put. The one that you pay up, then stay in the house. You know that you are staying there for free. But if you are staying in bond, to stay in that house, you are not staying for free. Because the day that you lose the job, the bank, before the end of the year, the bank will repossess that house and you are kicked with your family there outside. So people will say, but it's your house, Mos. Yes, but I failed to pay. You see.
Oh, it's interesting. No, but I understand. All right, okay.
So when you are buying the house, the property, I wanted to say you have to know what are you buying the house for. The reason why I'm asking that is you have to ask yourself that is because you are looking for a house. Are you buying it to stay, or you are buying it for investment? So those costs now that are involved in buying a house, they differ for the simple reason that why are you buying it for? Are you buying it for yourself? Are you buying it for to maybe to put tenants there? So the cost that yeah.
Oh, sorry. So if okay, fine. I actually was going to ask this later, but we can talk about it now. Is if I'm young now, I'm in my 20s, I just got my first job. Is it better for me to buy now? Okay, we did say that earlier that buying now is better, but is it better to buy or rent? Because if we're saying now that like the house that you stay in that you pay bond is sort of like a liability, which, you know, I guess that's part of it. Should I then just rent and then buy later on or something? Or yeah.
All right. Thanks for that. So the reason why I'm saying buy now while you are young, it's because it will be early. You own your house earlier, because if you buy your house at 20, at 40 you are now a landlord, or you are now a property owner. Mind you, when you buy a house, the ownership of that house is shared between you and the bank until it goes and comes to you as time goes on to pay up the loan. The ownership, the percentage of ownership continues to come to you slowly until it's fully your house. So you have to buy now, even though I'm still saying you are staying in a liability. My point was to say you are staying in your liability, not in your asset. You can still stay in your liability, there's no problem, but don't be too comfortable to say I have a house because, or say I've got an asset, because that house can be, you might fail to pay it. Even like what I'm saying, say if you are renting, or maybe you are staying at your parents' house or whatever, some arrangement that is there, or maybe it's a workplace thing, you have even if you there are less cases, less percentages of you defaulting to pay the bond, right?
Okay.
Because maybe the tenant pays in a particular month, the tenant paid late, or maybe you had 1 month that the tenant was not in. That your income, your salary, you know that your bond, the debt order comes on this day, they take from your salary even before the tenant pays.
Okay.
But you don't worry much because you know that you are going to get a tenant maybe next month. Then it starts paying for itself.
Covering itself, yeah.
But from the point where you are staying in that house, the day that your salary comes late, or you start having issues, or you are suspended or an unpaid thing, or you are dismissed, the debit orders, they keep on coming.
Yeah.
There's no income.
Okay. Coming in. Yeah, no, I understand. I think I understand what you're saying now. Thank you for that explanation. Okay. So it's a liability. Cool.
Yeah.
So then what
So,
are the costs? Like, I'm a new buyer.
okay.
What are my costs?
So the cost on that, when you're buying a property, there's a cost that, let's say, okay, we are talking of buying through the bank, right? There are costs that are involved when you're buying through the bank, or when you're buying through on cash, right? Those there are costs that are different there. If you are buying on was the traditional way of buying is always through the bank, right? So or maybe on isolated cases, people they buy on cash. So there are two things that you need to know that you are going to pay. They are what we call transfer fees, and then there are bond registration fees.
Okay.
So the transfer fees are paid to the transferring attorneys that are doing the transferring of that property, who are called conveyancers. So those guys who do conveyancing that for that property, you pay them as the buyer. But mind you, the conveyancers or the transferring attorneys, they are appointed by the seller, right? The seller is the one who has the discretion to choose who does the transfer for that property, for his property, even though he is not the one who is paying for that.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Unless if the seller says, maybe the agent that the seller is using, say, can you give me any of the people that you use?
Okay.
One of the conveyancer that you use, then we can say, oh, so and so, they are good, then can you use them? Right? And there are some buyers who come, because remember there are costs there of the transfer fees. Some buyers, they say, I have my own. I've seen buyers come and say, I've got my own lawyers, I've got my own attorneys who can do conveyancing. Yes, you can come with them, but you don't have the right to choose them.
Okay. Okay.
Unless
so that's the transfer fees.
Yeah, that's the transfer fees. Okay. So maybe you want to buy a house, we have got your lawyers that you know that they're maybe your relative that do conveyancing, or your friends or whatever. But you cannot convince the seller to say use mine, because you know that the cost for that you can negotiate with, because you know them. You can negotiate the price and then it can be a bit lower. But the seller can say, no, I have my own. You see, so you have to deal with what the seller wants on that, to say, I want these ones to do my transfers, because they do that to protect the interests of the seller, because they say the buyer does not lose anything.
Okay, that's fair. That's a fair statement.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Because mind you, when you are buying a property, whether cash or through bond, the money does not go to the seller. It goes to the seller's lawyers, who are now what we call the transferring attorneys. So it has to be domiciled at the lawyer's side, who are appointed by the seller. So if you, the buyer, then chooses the lawyer, then the money comes to your own lawyers as well. Then how do you protect the seller?
Okay. All right. So that makes a lot of sense. It makes sense, because you're protecting the interest of the seller.
Yes. Then the sellers, they give you the transferring attorneys. Now they send you an invoice with their breakdown, their own fees, the SARS fees that you have to pay to SARS, and for stamp duty and everything. But they give you a breakdown to say, was the one that they pay to SARS and everything, it's not negotiable, it's flat, that those fees. The only thing that they can negotiate is their own fees that goes, the fees that go to them.
Okay.
To say this is our
That's the transfer fee still.
Yeah, but all of them, they will be called transfer fee there, but there are components inside.
Or inside the transfer fees.
Yes, because remember, SARS need to be paid there.
So, but what? So, okay, let's just like break that down. So, there's the transfer fees, and that includes conveyor fees. Can you just like list them down?
Yes. Or maybe what we can do is, if you want to have another session, we can do another session where we look at that convincing the part of all the fees, or only to talk of those fees.
To talk about the fees,
so that when
I think that's a good idea.
Yes, when people negotiate with the attorneys, they have to know that the only amount that they can negotiate is the lawyer's fees, because it's them who can say we are charging this much. But the other component where they say transfer fees are too high, these lawyers are expensive. It's not that they are expensive, but it goes with the amount of the value of the property that they are dealing with. So when they are paying those fees that they are paying, those prices are always high. So the only thing that their portion, if you look, their portion won't be that much. You see.
Okay.
So the only thing
I think we'll definitely do another session. It's just so it's the conveyor fees, transfer fees, and then also the SARS.
I can say at this moment, let's say all of them, let's just say transfer fees, all of them, right? Okay. Including the attorney's fees and then the SARS and all that. Let's say these are transfer fees. Mm-hmm. For now, let's stop there on transfer fees. When a buyer is trying to buy, they have to know that they are going to pay for transfer fees.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So I think we'll definitely do another session where we talk about the fees and then we go inside the fees.
Okay. Yes, and we break down to say what are the components of those transfer fees. Then still on that, so that we don't go back on that. If you are buying on a new development, let's say, for example, Bowen is doing a development offsite, the one that they are selling, and then you are the first buyer for that property, for those complexes, that flat or that townhouse, that complex. Mm-hmm. You are not paying transfer fees. There are no transfer fees that are paid on a new development. So that's why sometimes you see people some people who have mastered this, they always look to buy on new developments because they know that they run away from the transfer fees, because the transfers are done on the parent deed of the whole thing. So the developer is the one who does that.
So you're transferring fees from one owner to another. So if it's a new developer, there are no transfer fees. Yes. If it's a new development, there are no transfer fees.
Yes. So the developer is the one who does the transferring. Remember, now we're dealing with the portions. So the developer is the one now who does the transferring of each unit of that complex.
Okay.
But now, after the first buyer has bought the place, then they decide to sell. Now, whoever is buying from them, from that buyer, from that seller, is going to pay now the transfer fee, because now you are buying from, it's no longer from the developer. You are now buying from the seller who is independent from the developer.
Okay, awesome. Okay, no, thank you very much. But so I'll set up another session. We'll discuss that. So right now, I just wanted to talk about.
Oh, sorry. I didn't answer on the issue to do with other costs, the bond cost, the bond registration costs. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the bond registration costs. These are costs for registering a bond, right? But the bond, this only happens as well when you are buying through a lending institution, like through a bank. So the bank appoints its own bond registration attorneys. It's the bank. In this case, it's the bank. So you as the buyer, what you are waiting for is to get invoices only to say we are the attorneys for transfers, they want this much, the attorneys for bond rates, they want this much. So you must be prepared for those two, depending on how are you buying and why are you buying. Then the other cost that you might experience is when you are buying a house. Then there's this thing where they say vicissitudes, where you buy a house as it is, and then you bought a house, you want to buy it and then maybe renovate it, or maybe try to add value to the house. Then if you're buying that, obviously those costs are yours. It's not the seller who can pay for you. Or maybe you are buying a house or a flat that you want to put a tenant. Sometimes you just buy it as it is, or maybe it's clean, then you have to put a tenant. Or maybe you want to stay there. Obviously, there are some maintenance that you have to do. Maybe you want to change the color of the paint, or you want to do this. That is if you want to change that. But the costs that you are prepared to, that are a bit that are substantial, there are those two: bond costs and then the transfer costs.
Okay. All right. Now, thank